Teaching Philosophy. This paper is from a critical pedagogy course. I wrote this on 15th of July 2019. For every teacher, teaching philosophy is something considered important. Human culture is essentially constantly changing, according to Sir Ken Robinson. Culture drives our identity. I want my students not to feel suffocated, trapped in a classroom, although knowledge is sheer joy like a place of ecstasy. By ecstasy, I mean enlightenment. After all, knowledge is all about enlightenment, isn't it? I believe knowledge is something one discovers. It is not meant to learn. It is already there. For example, the planets and galaxies, they are already there, but we have to discover them in order to know about them. In my primary education, if I remember correctly, science teacher taught us there are 9 planets in the Milky Way. Now today, if I Google about it, the answer is 100 billion planets in our Milky Way. Like me, for instance, I studied 4 philosophy courses in my BFA. I could not get enough of the dose of the ecstasy enlightenment which I was getting from Shehzad Amjad, ex-lecturer at DLA Department of Liberal Arts at Beacon House National University. Even today, I incorporate different philosophical thoughts in my teaching practice and artist statements, which students find super exhilarating because no photography teacher taught them like that before. Because my personal interests in philosophers like Martin Heidegger, German philosopher, for philosophy of being, innermost pursuit of conscious, subconscious and unconscious is to live an authentic life. By authentic, Heidegger means life of a tragic hero like Prophet Ali, peace be upon him. Because Nietzsche, German philosopher, for his nihilism theory and critique on modernity, that modern soul is a very fearful soul, its journey into nothingness and seek God who is dead. Sylvia Plath, American poet, for her poems like Poppies in July, in which she expresses her depression, which is deeply personal and confessional poem. Daddy, another poem, her husband cheated on her, she miscarried, she was suicidal and suffered from depression, so confessional poetry was her forte. This makes me question my 16 years of learning as a higher education student on the way teachers deliver the lecture or communicate. Is it the same way they were taught? Because my philosophy teacher never took questions or discussions during the lecture. He was very dictative and strict. He kicked students out of his lecture room because of sleep, using mobile phones, talking to each other, or not meeting the deadlines of assignments. His voice was high-pitched, never used mic. Complete opposite of all school of art and design teachers and what we are learning to become in an art education setting. Why do I teach my students photography through philosophy? The more I question my teaching philosophy, the more I see myself unlearning, rethinking, relearning. When we say our teaching philosophy constantly changes throughout time, what remains constant then? What about the teachers' parents who doesn't accept change? The way they are taught, they make it further just as it is. Are they responsible for ruining the present and future of this country? That's a bit... Never mind. I have an imaginary teaching philosophy because I do not have proper teaching experience like a designated one. From childhood, I believed that I would teach and write due to the fact that my mother's former associate professor. Her teaching philosophy was to teach her students how to think for themselves and make them use critical thinking of their own to form their own philosophies. That really made her feel good, helping students to think for themselves. I also hope to foster critical thinking and problem-solving strategies, facilitate the acquisition of lifelong learning skills, to prepare students to function effectively in an information economy that is modern, aged, industrialized society, to be able to make students think, take interest in the subject, engage in the practical activities, think outside the box, and some vital roles of a teacher for me. Holistic education should be introduced in our education institutes today, where knowledge is only considered about information, to introduce or conduct lectures with stream education, to build relationships among students for long term. The more establishment is making money out of education institutes, the more alienated our society is becoming by the sheer fact that every student is running in the race just to reach first at the finish line. Success is what you achieve for yourself. Significance is when you achieve for others. By John Maxwell. I do not intend to get higher education to make money. I wish to go to a greater good. The best teachers I found are those who engage the students and promote an atmosphere in which students ask questions and participate in discussion. Therefore, STREAM education, STREAM is an abbreviation, STREM, it's an abbreviation, you may Google, where fun activities, collaborative projects, group discussions, assignments will be more encouraged in my teaching practice, so that on a larger discourse world will have more unity. Relationships with animals, students' health and wellness, arts and aesthetics, food and herbal cultivation, along with mathematics and science integration, should be a salient feature in school education system, where a child or an adult per se could develop enough cognitive skills with emotional development and mythopoetic understanding. But teachers are assessment bound. However, John Dewey once said, every nation has to develop their own democracy. So a teacher always has to constantly find ways to make changes in curriculum as much as possible, as little as possible. Because every child deserves to experience acceptance in order to feel positive, constructive, and creative part of society. Having learning experience from such a rigid, Hitler-like teacher, I'm afraid to be like him in my teaching practice. Then again, I think of all the government school teachers and all their students who might want to become teacher one day. What kind of teachers will they be? Will they incorporate 21st century skills, democratic learning environment? Maybe I will get answers to my questions the day I start teaching.